We're very happy you're here to join us in this forum. We have a forum every third Sunday of the month, and this is one where we have the United Way visiting us. Your bulletin and other things have said that we were going to have Jerome Ferson here, who is head of the United Way. I think his family reminded him he had a birthday and that it might be nice if he celebrated it with them. So we are very lucky that we have with us two of the staff of United Way, Lake and Jefferson, who is with the computer here, and Jennifer Teskey. And so Jennifer and Lakin are going to help us understand more about a new, well, it's not brand new, but a way in which we can participate in the community in helping people find the resources that are available for people who are looking for help and need. And so let's get started, and we want to thank you for coming again.
Thank you. Yeah. So, as Lakin is getting this presentation put into a larger screen, we just wanted to get to know you a little bit since we have a little bit more time. And so you want to go first? Okay. This is my daughter, Madison. So if you could introduce yourself and maybe tell us a few things about how you're involved in the community. Okay, Madison. Tell me what your name is. What have you done with United Way? What's your favorite things? What about backpacks? Have you helped with backpacks before? Yep. Yep, you helped with backpacks. What else? You did a whole bunch of things with Charlie Sue.
We got food from the supermarket that people ordered because some people can't go out and get.
And then you delivered it to them? Do you remember, what about the food that we did? Remember the food and we washed it and. Yeah. What was that? That was about food security and getting some fresh food to individuals in our community that might not have access to fresh food. Do you want to say anything else?
My favorite color is pink.
And their favorite color is pink. Okay, now you can sit down. Okay.
Chicken cherries.
Sherry Swanson.
Yes, and we haven't been directly involved with United Way other than, of course, the campaigns. The people participate.
Everybody's going to have to speak up.
Okay,
supporting.
I'm supposed to tell everyone to speak up. You have to use your camp counselor voice that I have grown to have.
But we're mostly interested to see what sorts of helps are available, sort of in that age when we have a lot of friends that sort of need services and things, and
Sure.
want to see what's available.
Okay, we can go back here, sir.
So, David Alexander, and I'm just here to see what I can learn.
Okay, great. Anything that you've been involved in the community?
Not really.
Okay, well, we'll find some more
Community
things.
food response. Yeah.
Community food response. That's
We
it.
did a huge amount of work.
Okay. Yep, definitely. So food security. And Mr. Bruce Fuller?
Bruce Buller, I chaired United Way a few years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I noticed you more than double the goal for this time in March. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. And in the back there?
Oh, so, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Introduce yourself and any way you've been involved in the community.
So my name is Abe. I'm a program manager at Three Rivers Restorative Justice.
Okay.
We actually working with United Way. Our name is Grace Pesh.
Pesh, yeah.
Yeah, so she worked with this.
So a program partner, thank you.
Yeah, United and Kendall Hughes also with your restorative justice. And yeah, United Way did a racial justice grant.
Yeah.
And we were a recipient of that, which is enabling us to bring some people of color on board as facilitators in our program.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're able to take advantage. That's a fairly new project, but very needed in our community.
I'm Kathy, and I also volunteered with Community Food Response and serve meals at Jordan Day.
Okay, great. And back there, sir?
I'm Dick, and I'm not sure what the question was.
I'm sorry. Introduce yourself, which you just did, and if there's anything you've been involved in the community with.
Well, I've been involved in community food response, Dorothy Day House, Habitat for Humanity. So
Great. All great organizations with wonderful missions.
Oh, Family Promise.
And Family Promise. Great.
this
Many-
is my memory sitting in front of me.
Let's start in the back.
Sure, Kirkland, I'm one of the pastors here, and I've lived in Rochester now for about 8 months, so it's primarily involved in what we're partnering here with at the church.
Great.
Happy to learn more today, thank you.
Sounds good.
Terry Anderson, member of the church, and Community Food Response, Family Promise, and Three Rivers Restorative Justice.
Great. And in the front here.
Carolyn Chisholm, just here.
Okay, wonderful.
Jerome Ferson, Community Food Response, Birthday Day, probably a lot less than some of those things since COVID, but.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that trying to provide virtual volunteer opportunities is something that we have started to get really proficient at. So if you're looking for virtual opportunities, we do have those as well. In the front here.
Brian Webb, and most of my stuff's been through the church, including the Saturday noon meals and various other things with that.
Great.
Eileen Williams and Family Promise and Habitat.
Great. So almost all of the organizations that you have mentioned, United Way has supported in one way or another. Many of them program partners that we're making investments in the community that are moving the needle in each of those areas. So United Way of Olmsted County has been in the area in Olmsted County serving for over 90 years. So many of you might have remembered that we started out as a community chest in 1925, and it was a collaboration with Rotary. So that's another point of reference that you might have known. We have really over the years have transformed the way that we are investing and looking at our community's most daunting challenges, and being very strategic about how we are investing dollars that are entrusted to us through individuals like you that have donated to United Way of Olmsted County. So we're a coalition of change makers. We work towards providing a thriving community, and what does that look like? Very data driven and research based, which I think makes us very unique in the community. And so we work with donors, we work with volunteers, as you have mentioned, and agencies. We work with program partners, and we work with cross boundaries, bringing people around the table to really address those challenges that we see in the community. And this is a new way of the way that we are looking at our work. We focus on these three areas: building blocks, which many of you have probably heard are health, education, and financial stability of everyone in our community. We believe that if you are really experiencing any of these, you probably having challenges in all of those areas. And it really stems from financial stability. We are focusing on brighter futures, which is our work in education, providing access to education, and looking at different ways that we can provide those supports, especially in a more focused way We do that through our work with community schools, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but we can answer questions about what a community school is. And we work with Cradle to Career, which is fairly 3 years in our community, that looks at different data points within our community and how we can move the needle on each of those data points, starting out with early childhood education, all the way up to how do we prepare our high schoolers to be successful in the community and actually keep them here in Rochester as well. And then a third is our thriving communities. We strengthen systems and we cultivate leaders to build a community where all people can thrive regardless of race or place. And I know the community or the racial justice grants would fall right into this area. Also, if you haven't heard, our culturally powered communities program falls into this area, as well as our place-based work in Meadow Park. And we have multiple other activities that are happening. I could talk your ear off probably about all of these activities, depending on what your interest is. Sounds like a lot of it is food security, as I am hearing community food response is one of the, seemed like a big theme within this, this set of individuals here. So we're going to go through, we typically play a game called Making Choices, where we give you pieces of candy. You have 15 pieces of candy, and then you have to decide what, oh, Madison thinks that we're going to play the game. No, she wants candy. And we go through some scenarios where you have to decide if you have less candy every time, what you're going to put your candy or your money on to make those choices. And not many of us have not had lived experience. And so we have not thought about those things that you would have to make choices in your life, whether it is making a choice of, you know, your housing, what does that look like, and what might it have to look like because of your income? You know, can you put food on the table? What kind of resources are in the community to help you do that? And there's many other scenarios as well. And education is one that I specifically think about myself, because I have my 8-year-old here, and I think about what she is experiencing in her class and how that affects everyone in our community. So we're gonna go through some. This is participatory. So do you know the hourly wage necessary to meet a basic no frills budget for a family of 4 with 2 working adults in Olmsted County? No frills budget.
$18 an hour?
Close. This is 2 working adults, 4 in the family. $20. So even more than what you had thought about. That's $84,294 a year. So if you think of that as a basis of, this is a no frills budget. This is not taking your kids to the art center. This is not having piano lessons. This is not going out to eat. All those things that you might take for granted in your life. This is your basic housing, food, daycare, you know, your rent. So when you think about that and how many people in our community actually reach this threshold, I think it kind of opens your eyes to the need and the totality of need in our community. So thinking of that, and that was 84,000. Now we're talking about 75,000. So this is below that no frills budget. Do you know how many households earn less than $75,000 annually in our community? So now we're talking about how many? What percentage? 30%. Not 20.
50%.
What'd you say?
50.
What? Yes. 50% of our community makes $75,000 or less. As you think about that, and what we just talked about, the no frills budget, 50% of our community members are experiencing this need. And what are we doing to support those individuals and families in the community to maybe secure more of that financial stability? Think about the food supports. Community food response is one of them. Think about rent assistance and what we can do to help them in that area. Do you know how much you must earn to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in this county? 2 bedrooms. Now, I live in a house. I do not rent, and I have 4 bedrooms in my house. I live in a fairly affordable area, southeast Minnesota, or sorry, southeast in Rochester. Anybody got any guesses?
I think it depends on where.
Yep, depends on where. So we talked about our population and concentrated areas. I think that might be what you're talking about. So we have pockets in our community that are more affordable than others, but that also provides challenges to those individuals and families as well, their atmosphere that they're living in. Anybody have a guess? 800? 800. This is how much you must earn to be able to afford that 2-bedroom.
50,000.
50,000?
No.
Depends on how many are in the household. I'm assuming.
But it's a 2-bedroom,
2-bedroom.
it's gotta be, 50,000 is probably about minimum.
$18.44 an hour, or $38,360 a year. That's how much it costs for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Now, if that's $1,200. Yeah, that's about right.
Do you know how many full-time jobs at minimum wage you would need to live in common rental housing? How many full-time jobs?
2 to 3.
2 to 3?
3, what we were just talking about, $18 an hour.
What does, okay, so we'll go on to this and we'll have a little discussion here. An individual needs to work 1.9 full-time jobs at minimum wage to live in a common rental housing. 1.9. How many people work or have worked 1.9 positions? Two positions, full-time positions? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. If you can imagine this, what does your family atmosphere look like? What are the choices that you have? As you think about this, I think, my gosh, what would my experience with my child be? To make ends meet. And you can probably think about that yourself as well. Have you seen people on? So what do we do at United Way? We're connecting people to community resources. That's it right there. Connecting people to community resources. Now, the one thing that I wanted to talk about, and what you have talked about here too, is how can we direct people to the right resources? And one of the strategies that we employ, and this is just one out of about 100 different strategies. We don't have 100 different strategies, but this is very helpful. So we have a call line that's called 211. That's all you have to remember. It's 211. What I talk about this is it's like 911, except for it's health and human service crisis. And we definitely saw during the pandemic the increase of this 211 resource and referral. So it's available 24/7, it's multilingual. There's a trained counselor on the other end of the line that really helps the individual that's calling to not only address their prominent reason that they're calling into the line, but also those that follow it. So someone might be calling for rent assistance. Well, they have you thought about food? Are you food insecure? Let's connect you to the resources that you have in the community food response, channel 1. There's many opportunities. And you know, if you're struggling with rent, you may be struggling with daycare. What daycare options are there in the community? And what maybe daycare options are there scholarships for? You know, you have a wonderful program here called Thrive, right? So this is one of the resources that someone looking for daycare that would be maybe looking for a sliding fee or a scholarship, that they could call this line and then be connected with someone here at Thrive. And just to make that connection with United Way was one of the partners that was a seed partner for Thrive. If you didn't know about that. So one of the ways that we work in education and providing that access for not only early childhood education, but just a stable, you know, well-qualified childcare setting. You can see on, and maybe you might not be able to see on here. So during the height of the pandemic, calls, if you can't read this, what do you think the #1 call was during the height of the pandemic?
Mental health.
Mental health. #2, got a guess?
Maybe rent assistance.
Rent assistance, yes. Emergency shelter. So and that increases, so mental health supports increased by 300% in call volume. Rent assistance increased 280% in call volume, and emergency shelter increased 250%. But you know, the food supports also were making up of 13% of the callers in late March who sought food support. And all of these are typical for our region. They didn't, the needs did not change. They were just exacerbated by the pandemic, and we're still dealing with some of that right now. Where it's not going to go away, but how are we going to work together to address these needs? And you might not be able to see on there, but 211 counts. If you want to see yourself, who's calling 211 geographically by need, this 211 counts will tell you. And it's really interesting information. So you can, on here, we have between March 15th, 2021 to October 2021, we have housing and shelter at 22%, employment and income at 25%. We have shelter at 15%, low-cost housing at 14%, rent assistance 58%. So, you know, I think during this time we had a moratorium, eviction moratorium, where you were not able to be evicted. So that definitely helped. That moratorium is lifted. So this is what we have to deal with is this as well. So what does this mean for you? What we say at United Way is we want you to not only give, of course that helps, but advocate. So advocating for people in need, which many of you are doing in this room, and volunteering, which many of you do in this room as well. One thing that I wanted to share with you is if you're looking for volunteer opportunities, we have another support in this community called Get Connected. So nonprofits can put their volunteer opportunities on Get Connected, it's a database. And people that are looking for volunteer opportunities, you can go out on Get Connected and find those opportunities. I can guarantee almost all of the opportunities that you've volunteered for that you mentioned are on Get Connected. You can sort it by interest area. So if you really want to work with kids, you can support it by that. Sort it by that. If you want to work with housing or food, you know, whatever your passion is, you can sort it by that. Once you sign up, you get notified when a new opportunity comes about that's in your interest area. And you can do one time, you can do multi-time opportunities. And just, those are some of the resources that, as you think about how can I help my community, as Eileen mentioned, she was really struck by the 211. Does everyone know that 211 is out there? And so I think that one of our messages is trying to get that 211 out there, and having more people accessing that. And that's how you can help, is just knowing that that's there and providing resources to people that you might come across that really need some supports. I know often if I see, I usually carry these larger 211 with me. And if I see someone that I think is in need, and I think you probably see them visibly in the community if you really do look, I might staple $1 to this and then give them the 211 card. So I'm not giving them my full investment, but I am giving them the 211 card. So that might be something that you want to consider, is carrying these 211 cards around with you. So we have the larger version, but we also have smaller versions that are a little bit easier to carry around. It has the 211 number on it and some commonly known or commonly asked for services in health and wellness. And so sometimes your phone, depending on your carrier, you have to call this 1-800 number, which is on there too. But, you know, I have, knowing that this is a product of United Way, I've tried it out quite a few times just to, you know, it just makes me feel more comfortable when I call it for a need and I can kind of see it function. And let me tell you, it's really helpful. The areas that it might not be as helpful is government assistance. That is a systemic issue within our community that no matter what we do, we cannot give much of a resource or referral to government assistance. We can tell you, go to the county, we cannot direct you to a certain department, something like that. But the other areas, you know, the resource and referral is there. And also, this is a national number. So if you are living here and you have a relative somewhere else that needs some supports, you can call on behalf of them to the 211 line and get them some resource and referral. So it does work nationwide as well. So, you know, our ask today of you is to advocate and get this 211 out there any way that you can, and continue to volunteer for those great organizations that you are already volunteering for. And if you are interested in certain areas of need in our community, I'm sure like him or myself or Jerome will be willing to sit down with you in small groups and talk about the interests of needs that you might be having questions about. You know, we could talk forever about all of the work that we do, and probably never tell you all of it. So I'm going to open it up for questions. I know Eileen said I had 20 minutes, which I'm way over that 20 minutes. But if you have questions, we can try to answer those. I always tell people I might not have the answer right away, but I can always get that to you. What's that?
Just looking, we're looking at a program United Way has for youth, that they can volunteer with United Way and earn like academic letter or something?
Yes.
Tell a little bit about
That is a wonderful program. So did you know that you can get a letter in community service? So that's United Way, one of United Way's strategies to really engage with our youth and an area that really doesn't get as much attention as it should. We want to build up our youth and really lead by example. So you can, as a student, receive that community service letter. I am not sure how many hours it is. I'd have to look at that. But it is a certain amount of hours that would qualify for that. We do have a special ceremony and recognition for that. We do have concentration in Stewartville, because there's a volunteer in Stewartville that really is passionate about the program and really gets students involved. We would love to have an advocate at Mayo High School, at John Marshall High School, at Century, at Lourdes. But again, much of our work we could not do without volunteers, and it really does stress the importance of volunteers, and they're helping us do the work that we do in the community. Did you have any other questions about that?
Yes. Can you describe how United Way works with the agencies so that when a 211 call comes in, have they been trained to know how to handle that and refer them on to something else if they can't provide?
So first, yes, the nonprofits in the area are trained. And actually 211 will reach out to nonprofits on a regular basis just to make sure that they have the correct information in the database. If you were a nonprofit and you found that someone had another need, we would really strongly encourage someone to call 211 for that need, because similar to United Way, we don't claim to know all of the up-to-date information because it changes so often. So we, even at United Way, would say, I might have in the back of my mind, oh, I think you should go to Channel 1, or I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. However, I'm not the expert and not the full knowledge of what's out there without utilizing that 211. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just think it's really important that the agency knows this is coming through 211.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And rather than just a random call.
Sure. And it depends on the nonprofit. We can't control what a nonprofit asks, or might refer to someone else, but that is the guidance that we would tell nonprofits, is that really 211 would be the most comprehensive, up-to-date database of resource and referral in the area.
Can you speak a little bit about how many of the programs are qualifying as sort of financially based? Because I think sometimes for a lot of elderly people, it isn't always financial. It's just they can no longer drive, they need transportation, it's not like they maybe can't pay for some of it, but it's like, so I don't know how they determine how needy someone is. Is it on a financial basis, or is it they're just no longer able to do those things? Or
so I would say in that instance, the nonprofit that we're investing in a certain strategy that we're trying to reach, such as transportation, that nonprofit would be the one that would be reaching out and providing those services. So we're entrusting in that nonprofit. We do trust-based philanthropy, so we are learning as they are as an organization. And so I guess to answer your question is that I think that organization that they're being referred to for that need is best suited to really answer that question. if that makes
Things like
sense.
family service, that's.
Family
on a-
service
on
Rochester.
on a sliding scale, right,
Mhm.
sort of, and so
Mhm.
some of the other ones that you hook up with. kind of
Yes.
like Based like that too.
Yes, and we are rolling out new requests for proposals for nonprofits to apply for dollars in different areas that we see need. And when I think of transportation, I often think of transportation when it has to do with healthcare. That's one area. So I know that we have a new RFP that's coming out that's about health equity. And how do we address the needs of individuals and families in our community with health equity? One of those things that I think about is transportation. So, and making things affordable for seniors or individuals that are on limited income. We do also have a program that called Single Care now. It was a different name, but it's a prescription drug program where you get a card and they're saving quite a bit of money. I think upwards of 75% on prescription drugs. It's meant for individuals that are in need. They're either uninsured or underinsured. But I've used it myself. I have 3 people in my family that utilize prescription drugs. I've been able to use the card itself to do the lookup service to find out where the most affordable version of the drug that I needed was. And because of that, that saved me $80 a month. So that's an example of, I'm fairly well insured, but there's lots of expenses out there.
I have a family member who has a prescription that's about $1,000 when it's filled. I want to share that information with them. What is that called and how do they find out more about it?
You can find out information on our website, but I also happen to have, I believe, cards on me. I might not have cards on me, but I thought that.
There is a line down here on the bottom of this one for help with prescription.
Yes.
But there's no phone number, it's all, websites.
Yeah,
So
so,
they call United Way office and.
yeah, we would direct them to the website.
Wonderful.
So they can go on there, they can print off their own cards. I usually have cards with me in cases that people are wanting those. We really try to utilize our partner programs to distribute this kind of information. So hopefully someone that is in need of that service, they might be getting it through Family Service Rochester or some other organization in our area that might be serving seniors in particular.
So last month we heard about the Council on Aging, and I was wondering for seniors if you recommend some of their services, because some of that is statewide too.
I don't know a lot about that. I would say that maybe Family Service Rochester might have a better connection. So when we think broadly about the community needs, I am the person that is fundraising out in the community, but we do also have a department that is called Community Impact. And I can guarantee you someone on that Community Impact team has been involved in that work, and they probably would be able to answer that question better than I would. So if you wanted me to take that question back and get you an answer, I would definitely be willing to do
I
that.
was just wondering if someone calls 211 and has some concerns, if that would be a resource for them.
It possibly could be. I'm not sure if that would be in the database, but if you were to say I'm a aging senior, what are my resource and referrals in this area? That counselor would be able to direct you to those services, and they would walk you through it. So it's not just one and done kind of interaction. They actually have conversation with you over the phone to really dial into what are your full needs that maybe you're not even thinking about. Does that make sense?
Any other questions?
What did you mean by community school?
Community schools.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that is probably something that you're not very many people are aware of community schools. About 4 years ago, we started partnering with Rochester Public Schools on identifying the schools in our area that needed some extra supports. We went through a needs assessment. We did some, heat mapping of our area, and came to the conclusion that one of our first community schools would be Gage Elementary. And you can imagine the area that Gage is in is an area of need. So the students there are experiencing need. As we do those needs assessments, every school is different. So we cater what we're doing at each of the schools to the needs of the students. So we have community schools is both a in-school resource room, but also there is a coordinator at each of the schools that's coordinating services or coordinating the information for families and kiddos. I would love, if you want to see the inside of a community school, I would encourage you to reach out. We can do a tour, but Gage is an example. We brought on Riverside as a second school, and we've expanded to ALC, John Marshall, Phoenix Academy, and the next two slated for community schools would be Ben Franklin and John Adams. So you can imagine what I've seen in these schools, many of these schools, because my kids go to Ben Franklin, they have a bit of a closet per se of needs that are being fulfilled. But what a community school brings is more resources to provide more of those supports. So you would see like a mini food shelf, a clothing area, mental health supports, translation services. And what the reason that we have this model within the schools is that you can imagine if you're experiencing one of those needs, instead of going to 7 different agencies to get these needs met, you're just having to go to that one community resource room with that coordinator there to help you in that time of crisis. And so instead of being re-traumatized at each of these agencies, they're able to figure out what do you need. And here are some of the basic needs to start out with. They have washing machines in there. They have products, hygiene products, toilet paper. Can you imagine if you didn't have toilet paper in your household? Detergent. Some of the basic things that we take for granted, some of these families don't have. I was just at a community school, Riverside, this past week, and a business had done a food drive for them. And to see them go through the community schools and kind of have the light bulb go off in the individuals' minds, they had no idea the need. And then this was available to families. So what we like to say is that, that we are letting the teachers teach. Has anybody been a teacher? So as a teacher, you are so concerned about those students, and not just academically, you're concerned about the whole picture. And what we like to say is we want teachers to be able to teach, and we will take care of those other things, what we call an invisible backpack that a student brings with them. And you can imagine what might be in that backpack. Riverside actually is the first pilot from Mayo Clinic being in their facility to do some doctor's visits virtually. So that's just one of the things that a community school might have that you would not even realize is in there for the supports. But we bring on nonprofits to come in, we onboard nonprofits. I know 2 of the community schools have Boys and Girls Club staff that are on the playground with the kiddos and making that positive adult interaction become a reality. And we all know that that's important for the development of a child. What United Way does, beyond investing and being a part of that collaboration, is we play the data role. And you think data, what does data have to do with community schools or kiddos in our community? What we're able to do is to be that middle connector. A nonprofit like Boys and Girls Club and a school cannot exchange data. That's data privacy. But they can house their data within what we have at United Way. It's called Our Story. And so we're able to see all of the students' information, whether they're interacting with Boys and Girls Club on the playground, and then they're doing another activity at the school. We're able to see the results. Our main objectives are increased attendance at school, which then we hope that will also affect the increased positive behavior and ultimately increased academic success. And we're able to, because we're that data hub, we're able to produce the reports that will say how we're doing within each of the schools. And we're able to be the overarching almost aha of, okay, let's look at attendance. If we don't have kids attending school, how does that affect everything else? One of the things that we were able to think about at Gage Elementary is looking at attendance there, and a subset that was chronically absent. So we looked at that subset that was chronically absent. Because we had all of that information of where they lived and whatnot, we were able to identify those students and where they lived. They all lived in the same, magically, or you know, what we found out is that they lived in the same apartment complex. It was just far enough from the school that you know, their parents didn't want them to walk, close enough that they didn't get transportation from the school district. And so when a family has, you know, parents that are working almost 2 jobs a piece to make things happen, and you know, they're not comfortable with the system, they might be new to the United States, this is the type of thing that we see, is that kids are at home, they're not going to school. So that gave us an opportunity to think outside of the box and how can we help this situation? So we created a walking school bus. So we had staff that would go to the complex and walk students from the complex to Gage. What do you think that did for attendance and positive behavior and academic success? So, you know, that's just one way that a community school works, is that we're able to think of the bigger picture and how can we work together to make these things happen. So, you know, we've gone from 1 community school to now, I don't even know how many, we're a lot more and more to come. So it takes both an investment on United Way's behalf as well as the school. But you know, it does definitely show when you look at the data of how that's affecting the kids. I'm gonna look at my clock, it's 11 o'clock.
Yes.
So
I want to just point out to the rest of us, you know, we can be couriers of this information. There's so many people that look at community and say, well, you know, what can I do? What is there that I can do? And we need to be the ones that can sit down and say, do you know what's going on in our community with multiple ways that you can help and that people are spending their lives working for good in the community. So I'm sending you out with a commission after hearing Jennifer and really appreciating your being here and Lakin and Madison. Thank you very much.
Thank you.